Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butts-Chester, and you know what I like to do on my show? Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time today with Dr. Daniel Brubaker, and we'll be talking about his book, Grief, Forgiveness, Acceptance, and Rejection. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, hello, Dr. Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Daily Spark TV.
Well, it's good. Nice to be with you.
Absolutely. Now, I cannot wait to talk to you about your book, but we also have a bit of a tradition. We realize that we need to give time for every guest to introduce themselves because there may be some folks watching that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So we can see that you are an MD. With that being said, tell us just a little bit more about yourself, Dr. Daniel.
Well, I've been in academic medicine for about 20 years. I'm from the East Coast, Pennsylvania, the Amish country, and I uh, did my postgraduate work at the University of Pittsburgh, and then I went to University of Oklahoma Health Science Center. I was there for 6 years. Then to UCLA for 4 years and UCSF for 4 years. And then I decided I wanted to get into private practice. So the first 20 years I was doing research, I was publishing in medical journals. I was doing a transfusion medicine and transplantation medicine, which is quite different from what I'm doing now. So I've had kind of a wide spectrum of interest in medicine throughout the years. And right now I'm doing personal injuries, injuries with workers, and general medicine. So that's pretty much my background um, for now.
Oh, I love that. I love when people are give themselves permission to be broad within their field. I am a big proponent. I am a child of ever learning. The reading, the researching, the doing, the experiencing, doing the all, and especially in the medical field, you guys have such a wide berth that it is amazing what you are allowed to practice in and assist others with. So thank you for being an ever learner as well. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that this was one of the best ways to share your wisdom?
I found it to be necessary in terms of doing it in academic medicine. So I published in medical journals on research, and I found a new disease that I published on, and also I published in textbooks and about half a dozen monographs. So that got me started in terms of doing writing. I'm more of I would say an analytical writer, and it's not too easy for me to do fiction. So the books that I do are pretty much analytical, psychological, philosophy, medicine, and some of the other interests that I have. So I would say that the reason for doing books of this type right now is because I have a disability. In the past, I used to do a lot of outdoor activities, mountain biking, rock climbing, ice climbing, sea kayaking, fly fishing, all kinds of things. And I've had to have six back surgeries in the past 6 years, and I have glaucoma, losing some of my vision. So I can't do those things anymore. And therefore, I got into doing writing because that's kind of the last thing that I can really do as a hobby.
Oh, yes, sir. I can definitely understand that. Being an outdoorsman and having to slowly come back inside, that is definitely a time of transition. We are hearing more and more about, especially those in the celebrity limelight, that are having to make these life adjustments because of various things going on in their lives. And it is worth writing about and sharing to inspire others. So thank you so much for sharing that and letting others know that it doesn't mean that it's over. It's just time to do something different. And you're right, writing is a great way to share your wisdom, but also to keep moving forward, especially with talk to text. Now we can speak to our computers and they will type for us so we can still get that word out there. I love that. Now, the title of your book, Grief, Forgiveness, Acceptance, and Rejection. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and guess what that is about. So let me ask you, how did you come about the title of the book and why was it important to give it this name?
Well, I've been going through a grieving process. I had stage 4 colon cancer 25 years ago, so I'm a survivor of cancer. And I went through a divorce, and that was actually worse than going through the cancer. But since my vision has been decreasing due to glaucoma over the past, I would say 5 years, even though I've been diagnosed with glaucoma 25 years ago, I started losing more vision in the past 5 years. So that's been leading me into a grieving process of my own. Plus, the type of medicine that I do is related to patients with injuries that are dealing with their injuries. They can't go back to work, a lot of them, and they have disabilities. Sometimes they even go as far as losing their house because of their not being able to go back to work. So I've been dealing with that kind of grief with patients for the past 20 years. And the whole idea of that plus my own led me to do something about grief. And since Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came out with Death and Dying, actually, my first year in medical school, we had to read that book. She published it in 1969. I read that a couple of times, and so I decided that I wanted to start off with grief. But here's the thing: I've had to deal in terms of dealing with this issue. Sometimes I cry about it because I can't do what I used to do, and my wife would say, "Oh, Dan, don't cry." And so my first chapter is about crying because I think crying is so therapeutic that I wanted to write about that. And I think that's goes along with the grieving process. And I think it's important that people do it. And when I see patients come in to me and they start crying, they apologize, and I tell them, no, don't apologize. It's all therapeutic. You can cry as much as you want, as long as you want. Here's the tissue. So I got started with that as the first chapter. The next chapter then is dealing with grief and all the stages of grief. And I use some of Kubler-Ross's, but I also add to it. I add shocked to her five, and her five are the first one is denial, the second is anger, third one is bargaining, and the fourth one is depression, and the last one is acceptance for her. And then I added to that moving on. So my sister-in-law read the book, and my brother died 3 years ago, and she read the book and she said, you know what really made sense to me out of the book was the whole thing you talked about in terms of moving on. So perseverance, I think we see that with all the disasters that are going on with people, the suffering that's going on, and they move on. But the grieving process stays with them for a long time. And I just wanted people to understand what they're going through. So I used a lot of medical information, but it's at a level that people can understand it.
Oh, Dr. Daniel, you have really, I think, inspired someone to get a copy of the book because you're right. The five stages of grief, though they are important, I think that many people don't realize that you will. Along this journey, you will make two steps forward and then regress back one. You may think that you're at the end and think you're moving on, and then realize that oh, you're mad today, or today you need to cry. You are absolutely right. But to know that moving on, not just accepting the loss of your particular loved one or person, but that is also okay to move on. I think many people get stuck there thinking that it's not proper or true to move on yet. It's only been 6 months or it's only been a year. I can't do that yet. But allowing them that permission to do so, such an important step. I too am a cancer survivor, so congratulations on continuing to be here with us. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, when it comes to the proper way to read your book, I believe many times authors present in the way in which we should consume chapter one or section one before section two or chapter two. Is there a best way to read your book, or does it matter? Can the reader open the book and start where they need to start?
It can be done either way. I start off with crying because I that occurs with shock. It occurs with depression, anxiety, losing your job. Maybe a lot of people are losing their jobs right now, and with some of these natural disasters. I saw on CNN recently with the fires in Los Angeles. They were interviewing a person, and she seemed to be fine, although I think she was in denial. And in the background, there was a man who was crying and totally in shock. So I don't think there's any specific way to read it. I do start off with crying, then I go to grief, and then I go to forgiveness, because I think forgiveness is a part of the grieving process as well. And then I move on to social acceptance, because social acceptance, some of that rejection part that comes with lack of social acceptance can create grief. So I think if you start in the back and go forward, it's probably out of order. But I do have a chapter 7 on hate, and where I deal there with things like what I want to say, hate speech and hate crimes, and how that can cause a grieving process in people. So I mean, you could start there, but you can start right from the beginning and pass right through the book as well.
Yeah, I like how um you do start with the common denominator. And you're right. I have experienced loss from the death of a loved one. I've experienced loss as far as hearing or confirming the cancer diagnosis, the thing that I feared that I had, I in fact did have. And you're right. Before I could take a breath, the tears rolled down my face. I blinked and there were tears. It was almost instant. But you are so right. It doesn't mean that we have to stay in a particular place, or that we should be afraid to cry or experience all of the emotions that we need to experience. And that is a really great place to start in understanding what is that most common denominator emotion that most people are feeling, no matter what the grief is. And you're right, natural disaster is still a trauma that has happened to us, and we have to process that as well. Thank you for including that. Now, one of the things that I believe that you touch on, and you mentioned it in in forgiveness, is that you also look at it from a religious point of view. Now, let me give my lovely disclaimer that I always give, and that is, if you want to know how the story ends, you've got to buy the book. Now, with that being said, how do you touch on that particular aspect?
Well, I'm really interested in religion, different kinds of religion. I come from a background of Anabaptist Church of the Brethren. Um, I'm no longer a member of that, but I through my, I would say through my teenage years, I was asking a lot of questions, and I was reading philosophy books, and I was reading different things about religion. But for this one, when I was doing the forgiveness one, I thought, I think I wanted to include religion because I wanted to see what the difference was between the ancient religions and the Abrahamic religions. And there's quite a bit of difference. So with things like Buddhism, for example, they deal a lot with suffering, but they want to get beyond that. And by being a good person, uh, and not hurting other people, they don't feel that forgiveness is as necessary as, say, for example, Christians. And Christians, uh, for example, in the New Testament of the Bible, there's 66 verses that deal with forgiveness. Um, I think that's a little excessive, but uh, in Christian religion, that's pretty much what it's all about. And then Judaism, they also deal with forgiveness, not to the extent that Christianity deals with it. So I wanted people to understand that different religions have different ways of doing things, and different cultures have different ways of doing things. So if you're in those religions or in those cultures, you're understanding about other people, and that way you can accept other people as well in terms of forgiveness.
That is a wonderful note that you have made, and I think that when we are in a work situation or work culture, we do need to be mindful of those things. If we know that a coworker has or is experiencing loss in some way or form, to be respectful and to be mindful of how they may grieve, which may be different than how you do due to religion or due to culture. What a wonderful note there. Thank you for that. Well, it is time for us to take a very short break. And Dr. Daniel, we know that your book is, of course, available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But if someone wants to visit you at your website, can you remind us what is that website address, please?
It's DR for doctor, DR Daniel Brubaker author.com. And I am on TikTok as well as Dr. Brubaker.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Now, Dr. Daniel, I love that you are sharing with our viewers, and you're talking about something that is really important right now, and that is the various stages of grief and how people are experiencing them. And we mentioned it earlier that it's not just the loss of a loved one or even our fur babies, but sometimes it is the loss of a job, or like with the California fires, it is loss of the only home you've ever known or where you've raised your children. There are so many ways that we can experience grief. One of the other topics that you talk about is rejection. Now, in general, we all know no one wants to be rejected, just in general. But when we're especially experiencing loss, can you tell us a little bit more about that chapter?
Well, I talk about cancer culture. No, cancel culture, ostracism. Um, I talk about uh, hate as rejection, and I just think it's so important in terms of being able to accept other people. I go into some of the things with LGBTQ, with race, social justice, that type of thing. And one of the things I never really have in the book, but my own pet peeve is woke. Everybody talks about woke as being right wing and bad and liberal, but you know, our society started off, republicanism started off being woke because of racial justice, and that's what caused the Civil War. So I deal with some of that in terms of rejection, and people that get rejected, like LGBTQ and Black people and Asian people. It creates a really bad hurt and grieving process in them. And I want people to understand that they shouldn't be doing that type of thing. So that's kind of the direction I went with that in terms of rejection. And I I was writing on social acceptance, and then I thought to myself, well, what about social rejection? And so then I got into that aspect of it too. So that causes a lot of grief in my opinion. And so it's like kind of a full circle of life. That's the way I see it.
Hmm. And you are so right. There are so many people groups that can share their stories of how painful it has been to be rejected this time or the other. So to spend so much time, so much energy trying to dislike another person for a reason, I like to concentrate on the positive, right? Let's try to spend some time in that positive emotion. And what are the things that we have in common? Like, we all want to be safe. We all want to, love our families. We want to have the best day that we possibly can. And we want to be able to just be really good human beings. So I have to agree with you there. And there are so many multicultural people in the world today. The blendings of nationalities or of racial groups, that I think we want to lean more into how can we be friends? How can we have some more of that positive energy? So I really think you're tapping into something that is much needed here. Now, Dr. Daniel, when you were in I want to shift gears just a touch. When you were in the writing process, did you find that you were staying on topic as you were writing? Like, okay, today we are writing on rejection. Or did you find that your ideas were coming from this side and the other? I get so many emails from our aspiring authors out there that say, Dr. Angela, it seems like it's just all over the place. Can you please ask, how do I organize my thoughts? So let me ask you that question. How was that process like for you?
It's kind of patchwork. I uh I pick a subject like I picked crying, and then I do a lot of research because I come from a research academic background. So I look into all kinds of different things, and so I may go off on a tangent. And like I said, I used different cultures about crying as well, and so I did a whole thing on that. And then I come back and I kind of put it all together. I copy and paste and put it in what I would say is readable and kind of flows for the reader. But I don't like just start out and then plan to continue right through the whole chapter in a certain way. I don't even outline because I'll come up with an idea, maybe late at night, maybe in bed, and think about that, and I'll research it, and then I'll put it where it belongs. So that's kind of how I write.
I love that, and thank you for sharing, because I can feel someone saying, "Oh, thank God," because it is not as black and white as people think. Having authored a book, you're right. You can have an epiphany in the middle of the night. When I was in the writing process, I kept a handy dandy notebook next to the bed so that I could just jot down my thought or express it however best I could in that moment, go back to sleep, wake up and address it the next day. So you are so right. It is not just we're not machines, so we're just not cranking out a chapter. In many subjects, it is that patchwork, like you said, having a thought, gathering the research, putting it together, making it make sense. So I love that you have done that. I love it. Dr. Danielle, thank you so much for spending time with me here on Daily Spark TV. I appreciate your coming on and sharing your book with my viewers. And of course, we know your book is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. So we make it really super, super easy for folks to be able to get a copy of your book. Thank you again for being a guest today.
Thank you. I had so much fun. You did a great job.
Absolutely. Thank you. And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me today, and I thank you for doing so. As always, I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you're blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Feeling stuck? Looking for a spark? Meet your new favorite read, Living in Divine Incandescence. This book is your go to guide for finding peace, purpose, and a whole lot of light in your life. Living in Divine Incandescence is packed with gentle wisdom and profound insights. It's perfect for anyone at any stage of life looking to nurture their inner light and live with more joy and compassion. Imagine waking up excited to tackle the day, knowing you're walking a path of grace and mindfulness. That's what Living in Divine Incandescence offers: practical tips, inspiring stories, and a fresh perspective to help you shine. Whether you're 18 or 80, Living in Divine Incandescence is your companion on the journey to a brighter, more fulfilling life. It's time to embrace the light within and let it transform your world. Get your copy of Living in Divine Incandescence today and start living your brightest life in God's grace. Available on Amazon, Lulu, and wherever books are sold.